What's up everyone, this is Scher talking and welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'll be talking about the Battle Festival Joe and Bertrand banner. They are back with new styles. They also have their dragons alongside one of the Shells of Destiny being SaGa and Young Boy. Those are two banners and you have only 3 feature styles in each. That means that you have a chance of getting off banners, and I did get them, so this decreases the value of the banner. I'll start talking about Joe and go for each different style. Well, we have 3 different SS styles of Joe so far. This one is This Is My Duty, and it has the best style status. We have 71% for STR. She uses STR, I'll talk more about that later. She has the highest endurance, the lowest dexterity, but she does not use dexterity anyway. Her agility is pretty high on 94, intelligence the highest one with 113. Her will is 88 as well, and love and charisma are not so good. Well, this version of Joe just tries to bring a lot of different things, bringing utility, but she's not exactly the best character for a boss fight, besides one very specific niche. Well, 113, it's extremely high. She also has bonuses for will, indicating that she's better used on boss fights to survive and deal damage. Well, her agility doesn't have arrows, but at least you can get agility with her second style if you want. Now, this version of her has a very interesting passive. The first one is called Headbutt Cutter. This one, when she's directly attacked, she reduces the damage by 35% and counter-attack with Headbutt. And it's a guarantee. Both Joe and Bertrand will have counter strategies with these new styles. What is Headbutt? It's an 8-power attack that's actually based on STR, that's why she has such a high STR, and it will have a chance to debuff intelligence. Her intelligence is so high, so that means that she will usually land this unless you are facing a very hard content. And well, I can think about some very specific challenges that may have a usage for this, but you need to place Joe in a position where she gets more attacked. We have Desert Lance X formation now, that's very strong to use it with Mariah. You can just place Joe there and she'll get hit and debuff intelligence. The problem is that you are debuffing intelligence and the enemy has to use a direct attack, so it's probably an enemy with hybrid attacks. And her endurance is pretty bad, even if she decreases the damage. But if she's fast enough and she can attack before the enemy, she gets the formation bonus of Desert Lance X, and this can work. In very specific scenarios, I don't know, you want to decrease the intelligence because you want to avoid debuffs or status elements, because, well, like I said, you need to be directly attacked, and then boss that uses intelligence actually uses spells that are indirect, so very situational indeed. Then the second pass is called Strengthened Unit 2. When all allies are surviving, she gets a 15% increase in damage and plus 2 BP on start. This is important, I'll talk more about this later. And for the 6, that increases damage by 30, so she has 45 at all times and plus 2 BP, and this counter mechanic align it to her. Now we check her skills inside the game. Okay, the first attack is Frost Fire. This one is a 0 BP spell that deals both cold and heat with only E power. It's most likely like a normal attack from a physical attacker, but instead of using bonk to, well, waste 1 turn, she's now doing damage. Global X Rock Bouquet has something like this, and other mages in the future will have access to. Next, Joe also has something similar, but it's that Headbutt attack with the 0 BP skill, so you have to choose between these or the future one in the future. Okay, the next one is Winter Show. This one is also heat and cold. This one is an AoE attack with only D power. It's not that strong, but it's also carrying an utility, morale up, small effect for 3 turns. This will increase your damage by 15%, but remember this is multiplicative, so the passives of your characters are already increasing, meaning that sometimes you'll get something like 10% increase in your final damage or even less. The good thing is that you can use now Magia Shift formation to try to place her on the front line and attack before your other characters, and she can make them do a little more damage, but the skill by itself is not so powerful and I don't really like this. At least she can use it 3 times in a row for farming, since she gets access to 12 BP. Well, the last attack is Spectral Portal. This one is a nuke attack that can be used for farming mostly. She is not exactly that strong in most boss scenarios. Spectral Portal hits 3 times with C power, and it's actually her best attack now for nuke. It deals both cold and heat. We'll be back to now on my SaGa website because I want to compare it to other stuff. Okay, first as you see it's C-powered and 18. We can compare this to Beauty. Beauty has a very similar attack with her third style, that is also C-powered, 20. So pretty similar, but Trinity Blaster actually uses 13 and it's only one elemental, so a little less power makes sense. But Jo has another nuke attack that goes for both cold and heat coming from her second style, that is Checkmate. But Checkmate is super inferior. You always prefer to use Spectral Portal. This one will do very close to 4S damage for this coast, is very nice. So we have here a sheep, well, 0 BP spell that you can use instead of normal attacks, an AoE spell that can use it 3 times in a row with morale up, but it's not so powerful itself, and Spectral Portal that can use it for nukes, but I think this is better used in farming than in boss fights because she doesn't get BP back. It will take you 4 turns to get back to Spectral Portal. Doesn't have anything else besides this. It's just not like Global Axe Rock Bouquet that can also debuff when she's doing damage. So I think that Jo is the most gimmicky of her versions. There is a future version of her too, and this version is Robin Jo. And she has, like I said, Headbutt as a 0 BP skill that can also debuff this time up to 15%, whereas she can only debuff 10% when on the current style. But there is this spell here called Blaze Core that costs 13 BP on JP for a turn 2 fast attack, and I believe that the current one has 12. It was increased compared to JP only 11, so that she can use this on turn 1 in the future. So this has been a trend. They keep changing BP cycles so that some styles can use some attacks that could not in JP. So I believe that is the reason why they change it. And as for inheritance options, we have the A style that you get from the store that kind of offers a lot. With a Water Hammer, she is already an intelligence buffer by counter. She can now do this actively. There's also Water of Life for heal if you really need to use her on boss fights. And Crimson Flare Plus, this one you can amplify, and it's a triple S attack for both heat and sun, but you're only doing this for sun since the heat part from her own Spectral Portal is much better. Or another option, she can just inherit Hybrid Magic and use that 3 times in a row. It's actually okay for raids, but I don't know if you'll be using this too much depending on the number of waves of enemies and what you want to do with her. I must say that this one you'll do more damage on average than all the other ones, but she lacks the first Jo passive that increases damage of everyone by 5%, or Bonfire Ice that increases people cold and heat attacks, so even if she does more damage by herself, she's not helping the party as much. And that's why I say that she is strong as she is, but it's more for those that are chasing all Jo styles to make the perfect build, to interchange the different inheritances, but by herself she will not affect much the game, and you can easily skip her and choose different mages in the future. Still, she is pretty powerful and will stay as a double S power character in our tier list. Time to move on and talk about Genryu. We have 3 different versions of Genryu. This A style is from story mode, then we have the UDX one of Forbidden Resistance, and then now Fighting Together Genryu that has the highest status for STR, Endurance, lower dexterity, but he does not use that. His agility is now 106%, that's pretty cool. 29 intelligence, he does not use that, and there is 61 in will and very high love. Let's click here on Genryu to discuss. He has the arrows for agility, 1 arrow for STR. That means that you still require the other one to interchange between what you want to build as status. Okay, so for passives, the first one is strength and unit, the same as Jo, giving him 15% increase in damage and also plus 2 BP on start of battle. This will help him with some builds. Then there is Absorbing Fury. When landing an attack, he will have a chance of 37% to heal. Just that. I don't understand this passive, it just wasted in this character. Then fired up 6, that increases the damage by 30%, so we have 45% increase in damage, plus 2 BP on start, and also a 37% chance to heal when attacking. Now we go for the game to check the skills. The first skill is Searing Tail Swipe. This one is very similar to his first skill from UDX as well, but with different elements. This time is Blunt and Heat for 4 BP and B power. but I think you are only using this if you don't have any other skill to use with your BP available. And then the second one is Hybrid Fort. It's both heat and cold AoE, and it's extremely similar to Joe's second skill. But instead of giving morale up, this Genryu will give you guard up. That decreases damage by 12%, but again is multiplicative. All guard ups are interesting when you need them, but this Genryu is more for farming. It can just be used in bosses, but bosses that you are using against events, not very hard challenges. This is useless. I don't know why they didn't change, since Genryu is a better farming unit, while Joe could still be used in some scenarios against bosses, and guard up will fit her much better. But this is what you have, and this will be kind of a waste effect on this Genryu. And then the last attack is called Chilling Conflagration. This one is a very powerful 4S nuke. It's the strongest 4S attack by raw power and only one hit, and brings heat and cold. And it's just so good because you can use him on Rainbow Ranger's formation, place him on the agility position, and he will act as a fast attacker easily in scenarios where we have at least 2 waves. So you bring someone to kill the first wave with a fast attack, then Genryu will just dish out a lot of damage on the second wave. But this type of scenarios are not so common, and that's why some people don't use Lunar New Year Mirza as much. But still, by having this elemental damage on agility really helps in building some compositions. And now that we are back to our srsdb.com, what changes with this Genryu? Something very important. You need to have his past UDX style, or you should not even summon for this one, in my opinion. With UDX Genryu, we have Ice Fire Blast, an S power AoE attack with 36 modifier. And this one costs 12 BP. It was buffed in JP, it was not S power, it was only A. Now you can use Ice Fire Blast on turn 1 with the new Genryu, and that is a lot of damage. And after that, he can still use an AoE on turn 3. Something that the past Genryu could not do, and now he can, and even better with a higher damage output. So you're just upgrading your Genryu to do even more damage. And a fun fact is that if you compare this new Genryu with Inheritance to someone like Dora, Dora is totally outclassed by the hit damage now. We have S power and 40 modifier, okay, it's higher, but we have better status, we have better passive, so the damage will be higher. And then what we have is that Dora loses 60% HP in order to do that much amount of damage. Where now Genryu will not lose HP and will also be able to attack on turn 1 and turn 3 with AoE, just like Dora. What Dora has now to offer is only the lightning element of the damage, because on heat it's totally surpassed. If you have UDX Genryu, you now have some different rotations, and then you can just build up for full AoE damage right on turn 1 for AoE, or on turn 2 from single target. Like I said, Searing Tail Swipe is pretty similar to his past style, but it's even stronger. Ice Tail Slash is blunt and cold, while Searing Tail Swipe is blunt and heat. You can also inherit a slash attack from his A style, this one called Feral Pounce. That's not so powerful, but in formations where you need slash on agility, it also works. Genryu is powerful, yes indeed. The past one was good enough, but this one is much better, and also works well with even the past versions of Joe. If you have UDX, it just increases the value, and it's a very good option for those that have the gems. But if you don't have UDX Genryu, I suggest you should not care too much about this one and just choose future styles instead. He will be receiving a double S grade. And the last character from this banner is Young Boy. We had a welfare style from him in the past. He is a great sword user that uses slash damage. He faces a lot of competition, but looking on the status, it's just hard to compare. He is now a premium style comparing to a welfare. We have 110% STR. His endurance is pretty bad, but his dexterity is pretty high with 80%. His agility is on 100. It's a very high value for a great sword user. Intelligence is on 80s, and the other stat won't matter too much. Just remember that he's pretty fragile, with both will and endurance being bad. Young Boy is a character that deals damage but also relies on some RNG, and I do believe that he's better built on raids. This version comes with double arrows for STR and 1 arrow for dexterity, even bonuses for dexterity and not for agility. I don't know why, but his pass style has 2 arrows, so that will help you fix that. For passives, we have Attack Rhythm. When he attacks, he gets a STR buff of 20%. This is cool and all, but he needs to attack, so it will not be activated before he goes for turn 1 damage. Then the second one is Great Sword Prowess 4. When attacking with Great Swords, he gets a 20% increase in damage. Aligned with Fired Up 6, he gets plus 30% increase in damage, reaching as much as 50% at all times. Aligned with an STR buff for long fights. Well, let's get into the game again. Okay, so the first skill is Healing Blade. This one is very similar to a normal attack, but added with a very small heal. Very small heal will not heal him for more than 130 or something, because he barely has love and charisma. It's just a filler attack for the builds that he has access to, especially on raids where he would just take this heal to survive better. The second skill is his selling point. This one is called Karma, and Karma is a very powerful attack if it hits twice. As you see, it hits between 1 to 2 times. It has S power and only 6 BP. Let's say you remember Madeline. Madeline has a double hit attack with S power, and she just loses 80% HP in order to hit twice. This guy will have to rely on 50% chance to hit him twice, but will not lose HP. So this is pretty good when it works. It's a gamble, and they changed this in global for 6 BP, meaning that he can use this twice in a row. In raids, it just increases your damage, and you can just use that RNG in your favor. But in boss fights, sometimes relying on this to kill a boss and you don't kill, and instead you get damage, may not be so good. Another good thing is that this also has a critical against Demon and Undead, so it's even stronger than Madeline. He also has better passives, and the second hit will also take advantage of Attack Rhythm, meaning that it hits for even more damage. It's pretty nice, but I know the power creep won't just get into him later. Even through if he hits twice, he's just hitting for close to 4S damage, which is 6 BP. Pretty nice. Then the last attack is Waning Moon Plus. Waning Moon Plus, it's an amplify over Waning Moon. This is now 10 BP, was changed for global, so you can open with that, and when you attack there's a chance to reduce the target's agility. But this guy has the intelligence to just debuff. He has 80% intelligence like we just saw, and this is enough to debuff agility. It's large effect, meaning that he will debuff 30% of the enemy agility. He's now a very good agility debuffer for those that want some different cycles, but the problem is that it's 10 BP, so he does not get more BP in a fight. He would just take between 3 to 4 turns to get his attack again and debuff again. But for turn 1, if he can land, works. But for extreme hard challenges like Ward Tower, he would not have enough intelligence to debuff. So think well. Maybe you have to wait if you have Manticore buff his intelligence first, then you start using his attack even twice in a row when you reach close to 20 BP or so. Getting back here, you see, we really have very high intelligence with 80%. Waning Moon is a debuff, but he also has other attacks. He has Demon Executioner, is his only interesting inheritance from a past style, and he can use this on turn 1 and turn 3, or turn 2 and turn 3 if you really want AoE damage. Also brings critical damage against Demon and Undead. So what do you have? You can start with Waning Moon, and then you will just use Healing Blade once, and then Karma. This is a 3-turn cycle with lots of damage. Even if Karma does not do that much damage, it's the last hit that he would do in a raid. Or you can just go increase Waning Moon, use Karma twice, then Healing Blade, and just cycle between this. The damage variation will be high, but the final damage will be good on raids. And I guess this is his cycles. There's not much else to talk about him. Very powerful if you get 2 hits with Karma, but also skippable because power creep will eventually reach him without that much need for RNG. I would still prefer to use Madeline most of the time because she just guarantees that the damage will land. and you can use them together if you want, but then you have to drop characters in the future. There's way too many slash damage dealers, and it's another character for you to build. Young Boy will still get to double S grade in the tier lists, but yet another character that just works fine but can be skipped. And now I'm back to the banner image, and I will be finishing this part now because else the video will be too long. This banner is not so bad, but there are way too many things to consider here, and I will only give this a bronze award. Why? Jo by herself is strong, but will lack versatility. I suggest you going for this Jo if you have at least one other version of her. This Genryu is good, but I also only recommend summoning for him if you have UDX Genryu. Young Boy is good right now, but he needs RNG and can be replaced easily with future styles. So even if they are good, they depend on situations and inheritances to be worked on the banner. Remember, we have only 3% chances of getting a new style, and there are off banners. We are close for anniversary, and maybe it's time to save if you don't want then. Bertrand banner is much better in my opinion, but I will explain in a future video. But these are my opinions. What is yours? I already did some pulls because I like to pull on protagonists and characters that are popular because I want to use them in strategies. But thanks so much for watching the video. Please subscribe if you haven't, and if you want to support the channel, there are links in the description. Don't forget to join Discord where we talk about UniverSe and other RPGs. Hope to see you soon in the next video. Bye.